with the minutes that we've interacted with. And after that, the members will comment on the issues that will be raised by the content advisor. We'll then allow Mr. Matonsi to take us through to the apologies.
Yes, Chairperson, so far I've got two apologies. One is for Ms. Mlekwa. She says she has got a problem with load shedding, but as soon as it comes back and then she'll join. And then Ms. Lehwasa, she said, no, she's here in the meeting, but she will leave around 15:15. She has to take a flight. That's all, Chairperson, from my side.
Okay, thanks very much. Mr. Matonsi, can you establish if the Home Affairs Department are in attendance?
Yes, we do have the DG and the DM.
Okay. Morning, DM. Morning, DG.
Morning, Chair and members.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll then take comments after that from members and the DM and the DG on the content advisors briefing. Mr. Salmon.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me just make the screen full. Chairperson, as members will be aware, there were three main areas in which the President made mention or had implications for the Department of Home Affairs in the State of the Nation address. The first was the growing economy, addressing unemployment and poverty by reducing red tape to scarce skills, tourism, and business investment. Secondly, addressing crime and corruption. And thirdly, the impact of load shedding and infrastructure. So the first of these two issues are repeats from several years of mentioning the same issues in his State of the Nation address. And the last issue on load shedding is more specifically mentioned this year, obviously, but continues from similar mentions of infrastructure, investment and challenges in the past. So going to the first major issue, growing the economy, addressing unemployment. Specific mention is made of the DHA in relation to immigration permitting. The President mentions the key ingredients of for economic growth and competitiveness is the ability to attract skills that the economy needs. And he mentions the completion of the comprehensive review of the work visa system and moving quickly to implement the related recommendations. These include a more flexible point-based system to attract skilled immigration, implementing a trusted employer scheme to make the visa process easier for large investors, and streamlining application requirements. Consideration will also be needed for recruiting and visas for scarce skills in the electrical engineering, project management, and renewable energy sectors, to address the ongoing challenges in power generation. The committee has already planned its oversight of this permitting review during its forthcoming trip to Pretoria in March 2023, and you can pay specific attention to its implementation. The President also mentioned again the reduction in red tape and the team in the presidency that has been working with various departments to make it easier to do business. He mentions the collaborative approach, working with departments and agencies in areas such as tourism, transport, and visas and work permits. An example will be the introducing of remote worker visas to encourage this kind of new tourism to the country, and a special dispensation for high growth startups to recruit high skilled and competitive skilled persons. A critical facilitator of this process will be improving the e-visa platform beyond the initial 14 countries, as well as better coordination between the immigration branch, the visa facilitation services, and the border management agency to ensure that all visas and permits are issued more timeously and effectively. The presidential employment stimulus has provided work and livelihood opportunities to more than 1 million people, and all departments, including the DHA, must remove the requirement for work experience for young people seeking entry-level positions. The DHA has also played a role in job creation initiatives through the appointment of the first cohort of 10,000 unemployed young people to digitize more than 340 million paper-based records, which in turn will improve efficiency and reduce corruption in the DHA. The implementation of these jobs and this project must be monitored as a potential for addressing the longer-term shortage of staff and backlog projects in the DHA and government departments in general, so that these skills are not lost once the term of their contract expires. The DHA has also played a role in terms of stability and prosperity and development on our continent. And as the focus of the African Free Trade Area will be on collaboration on sustainable development and the just energy transition and industrialization, DHA will need to participate in the promotion of bilateral and multilateral visa agreements needed to facilitate free movement of persons related to trade. Once fully operationalized, the Continental Free Trade will provide an unprecedented opportunity to deepen African economic integration, grow national economies, and open up new frontiers and markets for South African companies. This in turn can provide further opportunities for the GPW to expand its market for security printing across the continent. Secondly, on the issue of crime and corruption, the recommendations of the State Capture Commission are being implemented according to the plan submitted to Parliament in October 2022, so that the systematic weaknesses identified by the Commission are addressed. The following are reactions to the President's response to the report recommendations relating to the DHA and IEC. So Parliament has prepared a document which we've submitted a response to based on what Parliament is already doing to address the recommendations submitted by in the Zondo Commission report. And so there are 3 specific recommendations relating to Home Affairs and the IEC. And then this is a status update and a timeline on what needs to be done on those. The first was that Parliament should consider whether introducing a constituency-based but still proportionally represented electoral system to hold the executive accountable. And if Parliament considers introducing this, that it should consider the disadvantages and advantages of that system. The status update, again, which members will be aware of, is that the bill is currently before the National Assembly, and the sunset clause on the establishment of an electoral reform consultation panel is there precisely to consider this electoral reform. In addition, the inclusion of independent candidates improves access to voters to candidates directly accountable to them. And Parliament will also need to embark on an exercise with the DHA and IEC to consider the consequential amendments to other legislation implicated in the changes to the Electoral Act, including its impact on applicable policy provisions, financial implications, and related changes. Consideration is being given as to whether this will be done through a committee or executive bill, the former being more expedient. The timeline then is that the Act will be passed by the end of the month, and the panel constituting various experts will be constituted 4 months after the passing of the Act and reporting 1 year after the 2024 national elections. And thereafter, the requisite changes must be effected prior to the 2029 national election. And the General Laws Amendment Bill could take between 12 and 18 months, according to the presentations we've recently received. The second Zondo recommendation was that Parliament should consider whether it would be desirable to enact legislation which protects members of Parliament from losing their party membership merely for exercising their oversight duties reasonably and in good faith. The Commission found that in several instances, Parliament had not been effective in holding the executive to account. And this also relates to the recommendation for electoral reform. The constitutional oath of office for all members of Parliament should serve as the primary guideline for their functions. And the recommendation will be referred to the above-mentioned electoral reform consultation panel for consideration in its new electoral system. The panel consulted, yes, as mentioned, the panel has been constituted, will be constituted after the 2024 elections. The third recommendation was to amend the Political Party Funding Act to criminalize donations to parties in the expectations of access to procurement, tenders, or contracts. Amendments will need to be made alongside other consequential amendments that will be required following the approval of the Electoral Amendment Bill currently before Parliament. And the General Laws Amendment Bill, as mentioned, will take between 12 and 18 months. Further, the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, mentioned by the President, consisting of many people across society, is in place to advise on suitable mechanisms to stem corruption, including an overhaul of institutional architecture for combating corruption. Reinvigorated law enforcement agencies are taking firm action against companies and individuals alleged to have been involved in state capture, and specialized police teams are working on tackling crimes like kidnapping, extortion, and illegal mining. And that several breakthroughs and arrests in dozens of suspects have occurred. The DHA will also be monitored in terms of how it is advised by the Anti-Corruption Advisory Council and the relevant prosecution bodies, and how it interacts with other departments in continuing to address illegal mining. In response to the State Capture Commission and in line with the framework for the professionalization of the public service, new recruits to the DHA, IEC, and GPW will have to undergo integrity assessments, which will become a mandatory requirement for recruitment to the public service, along with entry exams. The President and National Treasury will also be working together to rationalize government departments, entities, and programs over the next 3 years. National Treasury estimates that it could achieve a potential 27 billion saving in the medium term if they deal with overlapping mandates and close ineffective programs, consolidate entities where appropriate. Although it is probably unlikely, given the recent addition of the BMA separating border functions from the DHA, there could be consideration as to whether in the long term it would be worthwhile combining the police service and DHA into one department, as this is the case in several other countries, where one could have improved efficiency in terms of identifying criminals, and in particular addressing contraventions of immigration legislation. The impact of load shedding and infrastructure. With the implementation of the state of disaster relating to electric load shedding, in terms of the Disaster Management Act, there will need to be regulations, the purpose of which is to assist in protecting the public, provide relief, protecting property, preventing and combating disruption, and dealing with destructive nature of a disaster. In terms of these regulations, it must be assessed whether DHA, GPW, and GPW can at least be partially exempted from load shedding because of the critical services they offer. The power outages have also had a negative impact on service delivery at their Home Affairs offices, which are already challenged by network connectivity and outages. In this regard, power backup solutions by offices not assisted by uninterrupted power supply solutions will need to be budgeted for and may benefit from expedited procurement processes and budget under the disaster regulations and the forthcoming budget. Such backup power solutions will, however, need to be done with the awareness of the climate change impact and consideration of more renewable power solutions, such as solar, wind, and battery technologies. The Presidential Climate Commission and the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan must be monitored for funding, rebates, and infrastructure upgrades for Home Affairs, IEC, and GPW offices. The President also indicated that one of the greatest obstacles to infrastructure investment is the lack of technical skills and project management capacity. In this regard, the requisite international scarce skills and business visa applications will need to be prioritized and expedited to address some of the challenges around power generation. The continued expansion of infrastructure of ports and railways to rival the best in the world and broadband access for more parts of the country should also be pushed by DHA as a means of improving the presence of the Border Management Authority at ports, particularly naval ports, and network connectivity in rural DHA offices can also be sanctioned for. Lastly, mention was made of the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, outbreaks of public violence in 2021, and flooding in Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Northwest. An update will be required on the impact of these disasters on the delivery of services by Home Affairs officers, and special provisions for providing replacement documents lost the flooding. So this is a brief summary of the possible issues that are going to affect the DHA in its forthcoming budgets and plans, as well as areas of focus that the committee can address in its own planning and oversight functions. So with that, I hand over back to you, Chairperson. Thank you.
No, thanks, Mr. Salmon. Thanks very much for the presentations. Members, I'm going to invite you to comment, or if there are any issues to raise to the SONA debrief, then I will invite the DG and the DM to comment if there are issues that they want to also add, reflect on. I'll start with Honorable Lukhwase, because I know that she's going to leave the meeting. Honorable Khanyile, Honorable Rose, Honorable Tito, Honorable Van der Merwe. In that order.
Chairperson, I'm also in the meeting.
Oh, yes. You'll be the last one, Honorable Pillay. Thank you. We can proceed, Honorable Khwase. Honorable Khanyile.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues. Chairperson, we appreciate the briefing that we have received just now from Adam, but I think most of the issues that were touched on during SONA, he did touch on them. However, I'm really not sure if we're going to get that guidance on this from the minister. I also remember the president mentioning the issue of point-based that is going to be used when we now look at the SCASL and every foreign workers. I think I will need clarity on that. But on the other issues and the recruitment of young people to digitize their records, I believe that is underway. I remember the minister also mentioning that the first of about 2,000 has been recruited already. I think I have been covered. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tito. Honorable Rose.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Mr. Adams for the presentation, Mr. Salmon. Chairperson, I think, the SONA speech, we as the DA certainly welcome the points-based system that was announced to attract skilled immigration, as well as implementing a trusted employer scheme to make the visa process easier for large investors. And the speech spoke about this work visa system with recommendations and a report that I think we'd already asked about sometime last year. So it's good to see that that report is available. And I imagine that it's going to be provided to the committee without any delay. Then there's the introduction of the remote worker visa and a special dispensation for high growth startups. So it's really important that we get this going, Chair, because Namibia has already had this quite a while back. and is benefiting from this. It's really important that all of these opportunities that different departments have in our government, and not just Treasury, contribute towards job creation and business development in this country. So, Chair, despite this declaration, the President, didn't provide any additional information on deadlines, and you wouldn't really expect that. But I think it's important that we get that information. So we should get the report and recommendations on the proposed work visa regime and the recommendations. And we should get some sort of an implementation plan, because this is investment, it's jobs. And as Mr. Salmon rightly mentioned, some of these announcements, such as e-visa, they have a habit of appearing in multiple SONAs again and again and again. I think e-visa was in the first 3 SONA speeches of President Ramaphosa before the e-visa system was implemented. And so we need to avoid this as a committee, Chairperson. So we are visiting the permitting section in March. And it's one thing to have these new visa categories, but we also have to get to the bottom of this disastrous progress on visas, because really we can have these new regimes, but if the visa processing arm of Home Affairs is not processing them in time, then they aren't really going to help. And so it's a combination of those 2 things, Chairperson. Then in terms of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, I think it's important for us to also note that the protocol on the freedom of movement, which allows for a lot of this access to the opportunities of this agreement, it requires the implementation of regional systems at a regional level. So you'll see, for example, in East Africa, they already have one-stop border post systems, and the regional systems between the different countries in that region. They've had it for a long time already. And it's something in SADC that we don't have at all at this point in time. For example, when there was the issue at Beitbridge of a hold-up on the one side and not on the other side, it seemed like we weren't even able to get hold of the relevant minister to find out what's going on. And you would imagine if you had regional systems that were integrated and talking to each other, that we would all know what is going on and what systems development is taking place. And so those regional systems are systems like visas that we understand, that we can check the authenticity of a document, even inside the country, security systems, and then labor as well. So there's a perception that with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, persons will come in and take everybody's work. But the way it is supposed to work is labor opportunities in all the different countries are also supposed to be shared and encouraged with these regional systems. And so these systems won't happen overnight. And I believe it's also important for this committee to perhaps get a briefing on this from our content advisor. What are these regional systems that Home Affairs need to participate in and help to set up in order to make the African Continental Free Trade Agreement a reality? Then when we go to the cohort of 10,000, I think it's also important, Chair, that we as a committee track this, because already it was late last year, I think it was September or October, that the minister had spoken about the phases, phase 1, phase 2. And according to what he was mentioning there, we should already, the second phase of 4,000 should already have assumed duties in January. And we are only now training the first phase. So I think it's very important, Chairperson, that we track this closely, because if you have to do 30 million records in 3 years with 10,000 people, it's not a lot of time. And once that money runs out, then we don't know where we're going to get this money again. And so I think that's an important thing for this committee to track, to ensure that these phases are not unnecessarily delayed. If they're delayed, we need to understand what is going on, why. And then closing off, Chairperson, and wrapping up, I think, we also welcome what the minister said in his response in terms of the Home Affairs services in malls. I think it's an excellent idea that you can go there, get a number, and then go and do your shopping, and you'll get called when you get that number. And I think, added onto that, there was an announcement of 20 new Home Affairs units and the ordering of another 100, which the DA also welcomes. And I'd just like to remind this committee as well, and remind the department, that we had requested that the itinerary of these mobile units gets shared with the committee on a regular basis so that we understand where they're going to be. And that we can also do oversight in this regard to make sure that these mobile units are getting out there and that they are serving our remote communities that cannot get to these mega shopping centers. Finally, Chairperson, the Minister also spoke about the border guards, spoke about how they are assisting with getting or finding people with agriculture products and vehicles. And my one concern with this, Chairperson, is the fact that these border guards were supposed to be assisting with patrolling our porous borders. They were supposed to be looking at areas beyond the border posts. They appear to be doing routine functions at the border posts. So I think this is something that we can raise. We'll have this opportunity in a few weeks. But I think it's just important to raise that, Chairperson, that it's a bit concerning when you hear that border guards are busy confiscating agricultural products at border posts. I mean, that is supposed to be the job of a very specific line department that is integrated. It's not supposed to be a militarized somebody with weapon skills, and that they're not supposed to be sitting and digging around to see if you're bringing in agricultural products. So that's it from me, Chairperson. But again, I would welcome the expansion and the points-based visa system, but I think we really need to put pressure on the Department of Home Affairs to give us an implementation timeline so that at the next SONA, then the President will be able to report that this is actually underway and is happening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ross. Honorable Van der Merwe. Members, I must note that Honorable Tito and Honorable Van der Merwe also be struggling with the network. Co-Chair. Honorable Van der Merwe. Okay, Honorable Pile.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues. Chair, let me take this opportunity firstly to wish the DM a happy birthday for yesterday, and I pray that he had a good day. Chair, mine is just going to be one small recommendation that all of what Adam has presented to us, in particular to the responses around SONA. My proposal would be, or recommendation is that we itemize this for our strategic planning session, which is coming up shortly in March, and that we then be able to look at how we have specific timelines in addressing each of those points. The department will be able to respond on what is currently happening and what is going to happen. In that way, we'll be able to evaluate and monitor the success of these items that have been raised. And I think that would go a long way for us as a committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. Can I check if Honorable Lohoste and Honorable Tito are back on the line? Okay. I think the outline is clear in terms of the issues that we raise at SONA that reside also with the work of the Home Affairs and Security Cluster. And the GM, there may be issues which are raised by members in terms of our timelines and also how we're going to interact on the issues that we tabled before the committee. And I'm sure that is linked with our APP in terms of the, and I fully agree that with Honorable Pile and Honorable Ross that there might be other issues that. Honorable Mr. Matonsi?
Yes. Who can hear you, but you are breaking a little bit.
Yeah, I was inviting the DG. I'm not sure he's still on the line. If not, the DM.
I'm still on the line, Chair.
Yes, I was inviting you to comment on the issues that were raised. There were other issues will be also dealt with during our strategic workshop time frame and how we're going to implement them. I've raised that some of the issues find expression in the APP. We'll invite you to comment and we'll also invite the DM, then stand off the item.
No, thanks, Chair, and thanks, honorable members, and thanks for raising some of the issues, Honorable Rose. Maybe just to give an update on where we are with regards to the review of the visa regime. We have, the minister has received that report from former DG Mavuso. Broadly, Chair, there are 8 recommendations classified into 2. And the first one speaks to process improvement. The second one speaks to policy and regulatory improvements. So we have been working with the team in the presidency on an implementation plan that Honorable Ross has indicated will need to come and present, including on the e-visa. So these are things that we currently are working on. And then, of course, that fits into what Mr. Salmons was saying around growing the economy. And then the other part around digitization speaks to addressing unemployment and poverty. And I suppose the committee is familiar with the fact that we did receive the allocation very late, Honorable Ross, from Treasury. And as a result, we couldn't make any commitments until we received that letter from Treasury. Hence, there was a delay in terms of the recruitment. But we are picking up pace, as you would have noted that the adverts for an additional 4,000 are out. Which means there's work that's underway. And then, of course, the issues that you are raising around the AFCTA with regards to the protocol for freedom of movement. I suppose I need to raise an issue because largely, Honorable Ross, this depends on a number of issues, not only just security systems, but also your civil registrations in those countries. If someone says they have an ID or they have a passport, are we able to authenticate that in order to enable free movement? And I think there's a lot of work that we currently are working on. I do know the DM will be in Lesotho in the next week or so. We've finalized some agreements with Kenya, which we are currently implementing, and there's work that we'll be doing with Uganda as well. And then with regards to services, I suppose DM will speak to other initiatives other than Mainland that we are looking at. For example, in the Western Cape, there is an office that we are planning to open shortly, which will just be based on bookings only. And I think the DM will be able to respond to the other issues. I think we do take the offer, Honorable Pillay, that some of the issues will be itemized. And then for sure at the strat session, we should be able to deal with those issues. And lastly, just to indicate that I suppose climate change is having a huge impact, and not only in terms of our operations, but also people accessing services in other areas where they're unable to come through to offices due to flooding and so on and so forth. So these are some of the issues that we currently are dealing with. But thank you so much, Honorable Chair, and to the honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, DG. Deputy Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to all the members of the Portfolio Committee. Just a few responses. I think one will take the advice, and I think the approach as suggested by Honorable Pillay is proper, that we itemize all the items, and then after itemizing all those items, we can then be able to respond to them and then provide the details, detailed timelines, as Honorable Ross was also saying. But just to respond to a few issues, I think we might need to come and present the work that is actually being done by border guards in terms of the Border Management Authority, which has been good work. You will remember, Honorable Ross, that some of the functions that are being done by other departments had to be transferred to the Border Management Authority as part of the single command and control environment of the border. So some of the work that we have to do actually entails the work that has been done by other departments. But I think we must share more information with the committee on how we are actually doing that. And these are security related checks, because some of them, they are driven by criminality, smuggling of animals in the wrong way and so on. So it might seem as just as an issue that belongs to Department of Agriculture, but actually it has a security element to it. But I think we will then present the work that is being done by the Border Guards Portfolio Committee. On the issue of the e-visa, you will remember that the e-visa has been work in progress. We did not just say we are opening up e-visa today and then open it up for everyone. We had to start by piloting and then adding countries as we go along. We'll only be able to say it is complete in terms of accepting all the countries once we've been able to deal with that, because this is a very serious issue. You will remember that our responsibility as Home Affairs is not only from an economic development perspective or from a security, perspective, but it has to, we have to make sure that we balance both. And as such, in anything that we do, we advance in terms of opening up the country so that there will be better economic opportunities, for instance, in tourism as it pertains the e-visa system. But also we have to make sure that the systems that we are deploying are actually safe. And that is why we will gradually introduce systems up until such time that we are very much happy with their security and so on. So that is what we are doing with the e-visa. So it's not just that we just wanted to delay, it's because of the progression that we have to make in introducing more countries and then fix issues where they need to be fixed. On the Africa Free Trade, I think the DG dealt with that issue very well. Free trade and has to do also with the free movement of people. We have what we call ID for Africa, where we are helping other countries and our neighbors to improve on their population register and how they actually register those people as part of their national population register. Because some of the countries actually, do not have the required set of documents as we do, or have not reached a proper and good level in terms of civic registration of their own citizens. Up until those issues are addressed, only then we can then guarantee free movement of people, because you can't have free movement of people whilst those people do not have the necessary documentation for them to move up and down. But that is something that we are dealing with. Yes, we have a huge responsibility in improving our service offering. We will bring a report, I think, in due course. We'll have to bring a report in due course on some of the advances that we are making. The booking system is working quite well. We are piloting the issue of the malls as well, which is part of our way of in decreasing queues. But there is some technology that we are looking at, which will allow us to immediately modernize the more than, I think, 200 offices, if I'm correct, that are unmodernized, which will really mean we'll introduce huge capacity in terms of our ability to issue smart ID cards throughout the country by modernizing the unmodernized offices. But we're still working on a few issues around that. I'm hoping that pretty soon we're going to be able to come back to the portfolio committee and make announcements on how we are dealing with that. We are continuing to build the purpose-built offices throughout the country, which is also working very well. And we are also fixing the issue of the back-end IT system. But I think having a more itemized approach, as Honorable Pillay was saying, will allow us to then share the time frames and the roadmap on how we intend to implement all the issues as mentioned in the SONA. Thank you.
Thank you, DM. Mr. Salmon, is there any response you want to take?
Only one issue, Chairperson. I didn't capture the point made by Honorable Kanyile. She cut out for a second, so I didn't get the cracks. Otherwise, I've just noted all the points and then noted by members, and we'll make sure that's included in the planning as suggested. And I'll share the the document with the DHA for them to be able to respond. So far, I've only shared it with members. Thank you. Sorry, Chairperson, we can't hear you. You're cutting out.
I think thanks, honourable members, for drafting this report. The DM, as agreed now. Mr. Matonsi?
Yes, Chair. Hello? Chairperson? Adam?
I can hear you, Eddie. I think the chairperson is he's in the meeting, but we can't hear him.
Yeah, but I think maybe it meant that we should move to the next agenda item of the minutes. I think so, because we're done with the SONA issue.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Chairperson, we can hear you.
Mr. Matonsi?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you. Hello, Chair?
Yeah, I was saying that. Yeah, I was saying that we're having network challenges. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Mr. Matonsi?
Yes, Chairperson, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was saying that we're done with the SONA inputs. Yes, we'll then have a framework in terms of reports and progress and the suggestion by the DM and the DG during our strategic session in all the issues that have been raised by these presentations and members. So we'll stand off this item and thanks very much for contributions. We'll then move to the minutes of the meeting. We can release the DM and the DG so that we deal with the minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Adam?
Yes, Eddie, can you see the minutes?
Yes, Adam, but did you get the email I sent? Chairperson recommended that we should only deal with 5 sets of minutes per meeting until we finish them. So I did resend, I think it was yesterday. Didn't you get them?
I saw them, but okay, these are the batches that I saw with the meeting invite. These are the oldest minutes that I.
Yeah, let me do this, Adam. Let me share. The
Okay,
one that, yeah.
Mr. Matonsi?
Yes, Chair.
Can I invite you to explain our backlog of the minutes first, so that members get to appreciate how we're going to deal with the minutes henceforth.
Okay.
And confirm the minutes you have sent to members, and we'll get input from members on how we can deal with the minutes. We have suggested that at least we can deal with 5 per meeting, so that our minutes are on record. Let's start with that first and get comments from members, and then we run on the minutes. Mr. Matonsi?
Oh, okay, Chair. Yeah. For the whole of 2022, Chairperson and members, we were not able to adopt our minutes. I know that sometimes in August we did bring them to the committee, but because of pressure on the bill, we were not able to process them. So I have sent a batch of minutes from November 2021, which was the last time we adopted, until the end of last year. And then also there was some minutes that for this year. So all in all, I think it was about 41 or 42 sets of minutes. So I sent them, all of them, to members. So yesterday when I was speaking to Chairperson, he suggested that instead of going through all of them, because there are many, it will be better if we take 5 today, and then the next meeting we take another 5, and then until we finish them, so that now we're up to date. So that's that, Chairperson, from my side. Chairperson?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Matonsi. Yes. Members, before we start, can I get your input on the process which we think we can adopt to conclude all the minutes? But I've suggested that we can deal with 5, as Mr. Matonsi, we have requested him to send all the minutes to our attention. Then we'll see how we navigate the completion of these minutes of both the years that we are behind. Honorable Pillay, Honorable Ross, Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, no, I support what you've recommended or proposed in terms of we deal with the 5 and dispense of that and then deal with the others. But I'm just concerned that we should not be leaving it to pile up this much. And I want to propose, Chair, that Bra Eddie brings the minutes at least by the new month in terms of previous meetings, so that we don't have to be having these backlogs. We can be able, minutes is something that is very simple to dispense of, or perhaps even at the end of every meeting, you're able to deal with the previous if it's ready. If not, we just say on one meeting, we deal with that month's minutes. But I think just leaving it for that long is really not proper. And I think it's not procedurally correct for any meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Noted. Honorable Pillay, Honorable Ross.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, I am quite happy to go ahead with the proposed way forward, 5 sets of minutes at a time. And I also concur with what Honorable Pillay said in terms of the fact that we need to get these minutes more timeously, because the challenge is really to go back to, now you're expecting us to go back to 2021 and look at the minutes and try and remember everything that was said. It is really onerous, Chairperson. So I support the proposal by Honorable Pillay. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Co-Chair. Honorable Tito. Honorable Lohase. Honorable Kanyile.
Chairperson, I have been largely covered by Honorable Pillay and Honorable Ross. I also wish to reiterate that going forward, let us not leave the minutes to pile up for such a long time. And as Honorable Pillay has suggested, that maybe every first Tuesday of the month, let us deal with the minutes of the previous month. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we agree on that principle and the decision of the committee on how we must deal with the minutes henceforth. Mr. Matonsi, can we then run on the 5 minutes so that we carry them? Mr. Matonsi?
Okay, Chair. Okay, Chairperson, we have minutes here of 7th of December, which is 2021. This was the last minutes of the year in 2021, where the Minister of Home Affairs briefed the committee on the electoral reform ministerial advice. So this is the sets of minutes, Chairperson. I don't know if you want me to go through them, but I've sent them to members yesterday for them to have a look at them. Chairperson?
Yes, Mr. Matonsi.
Yeah, I was saying, I don't know if you, because we have sent them to members, so in order to dispense them quickly, I just indicated here that this is where the Minister of Home Affairs briefed the committee on the MEC report in December 2021, Chairperson, and where we adopted the last set of minutes.
Okay, I think this is clearer because it relates to the issues of the electoral amendment bill and the committee interface with that. Members, you have gone through the minutes. I'm now going to invite you to consider the minutes as presented. Can I invite the Honorable Modise Mtsa?
Chairperson, okay.
Honorable Ross?
Chairperson, I've gone through the minutes. I don't see anything that needs changing. So I think I can propose for the adoption of it.
Noted. Propose for the adoption of the minutes of Honorable Pillay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I just wanted clarity because I heard Brian Eddie say something about December 2021, and it can't be. I think he's meaning the April minutes before I second the adoption.
Chairperson, the last time we adopted, it was December 2021. So last year, we never adopted any set of minutes.
Is that clear for you, Honorable Pillay?
No, Chair, it doesn't, because we have to adopt each of the minutes, or are we adopting all? Through you, Chair, because if you're saying the last time was the 7th of December 2021, is it that minutes, or are we looking at the ones that were sent to us?
Chairperson, can I clarify?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Pillay, I did send sets of minutes. I think there were about 40 for 2022, but I also included the 2021 because this was the last meeting where we adopted the minutes. So I did send all of them. So yesterday, Chairperson realized that the minutes are too many. He suggested that no, we should adopt 5 sets of minutes per meeting so that no, we finish the backlog. So I'm starting on the 7th of December, 2021, and then we'll go to January, and then it will be 5 sets of minutes, and then we are done the next week, and then there will be another set of minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I would then second the minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Any objection? No objection. The minutes as presented have been adopted by the committee and read. Can you move to the second minutes, Mr. Matonsi?
Okay. Chair, then the second set of minutes is the 8th of February 2022, where the Minister of Home Affairs briefed the committee after the bill was introduced, the electoral amendment bill, after it was introduced in January. And then that's where the minister also made the comments on the electoral laws amendment bill, which was introduced by Mr. Lekota. So these are the sets of minutes for that day on the 8th of February, Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Matonsi. Members, can I invite you to move for the adoption of the minutes as read?
Chairperson, I move for the adoption.
Move for the adoption and seconder.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Ross.
There's just a typo on page 5 under item 5.1.
Okay.
I think we're page 5 at the bottom of page 5, 5.1.
Okay.
I think it should say exist. The committee was concerned about a vacancy that would exist because of an independent candidate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, noted to that.
Yeah, so with that change, then I would second it.
Thank you. Seconded. Any objection? There's no objection. The minutes carried as read and corrected. Mr. Matonsi can move the 30 minutes.
Okay, and then the next one, it was on the 26th of April. You will recall that if you look at the month of March, that's where we participated on the provincial public hearing. So we did not have meetings until the end of April. On the 26th, where the meeting where the Department of Home Affairs briefed the committee on their APP for 2022-2023, and then also the department briefed the committee on the intervention in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape with regard to the flooding that side in 2022. So those are the minutes for that day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matonsi. I think that reflects the work. I'm inviting mover for adoption.
Chairperson, I move for the adoption of
Yeah, move adoption on a play. Seconder.
Chairperson, I'll second the minutes.
Seconded the minutes. In objection? There is no objection. Less minutes are adopted. Mr. Martins, let's move for the 4th minutes.
Okay. Okay. Then the next one was the 29th of April, where the content advisor briefed the committee on issues that emanated from the public participation on the electoral bill. And then the minister also responded on the public participation report. And then also we also dealt with the issue of the revised second term committee program.
Thank you, Mr. Matonsi. Can I request the mover for the adoption of the report of the minutes?
Chairperson.
Honorable Pillay.
Yes, I'll move for the adoption. Thank you.
Seconder.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Bruce.
I'll second the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you. Any objection? Thank you. The minutes are read and agreed, adopted. Mr. Maton, can you read the last minute?
Yes, Chairperson. Then the last minutes to be adopted today is wherein the content advisor in the morning briefed the committee on the APP and budget of government printing works and IEC. And then thereafter, the IEC briefed the committee on the budget and the APP, followed by government printing works. So that's all, Chairperson. This was in relation to their APP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matonsi. Can I invite mover for adoption?
Chairperson.
Honorable Ross.
Chairperson, just a proposed amendment here or addition. I think some of us raised the fact that in the GPW report, the balance sheet had been removed from the APP. And the committee resolved that it should be included in future APP reports again. So I think that was a very important point. You know, there's information on there that is important to oversight. I think it just needs to be added here that the committee recommended that the balance sheet be included in future APP reports.
Okay, I got that, Mr. Ross. I'll add it.
Chairperson, I'll second that with the inclusion.
Can I, Honorable Ross, move for adoption? Can I get that in record?
Yes, Chairperson, I move for the adoption.
Chairperson, I'll second.
Thank you. Any objection? No objection. Thanks, members, for carrying the minutes. We've gone through the minutes as circulated, and that reflect our deliberations in the previous committee meetings. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Matonsi and Mr. Salmon for preparing for these minutes. As resolved, Mr. Matonsi, we will schedule for minutes to be adopted but considered by the committee as proposed, so that we don't have a backlog on the issues that we have dealt with previously. So that all the issues are on record. I will take this opportunity to thank all members and apologize on behalf of some of our members who are struggling with the network. We get the notes from Honorable Tito, Honorable Van der Merwe, Honorable Molekwa, and Honorable Mutisemta for network challenges. Mr. Matonsi, you may need to look on how we're going to have physical meetings so that we avoid these challenges that we're facing. And I think it's a matter that we'll have to deal with at MENCO on how we're going to schedule physical meetings for the purpose of running smoothly, and all members will be able to contribute to the committee work. Thanks very much, members. Is there any announcement, Mr. Matonsi?
The only announcement, Chairperson, the electoral amendment bill I did send on the WhatsApp group is going to be in the National Assembly on the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that, Chairperson.
Okay, thanks very much, members. Our meeting stands adjourned.